So the world is pretty crazy right now. Everywhere's pretty much going into lockdown, movies have been delayed, Fast 9 has been delayed for a year, and of course, there are articles and listicles on what movies we should be watching. This is not one of those films. If you follow me on Letterboxd, please follow me on Letterboxd, you might notice something. While I'm also playing catch up on movies I somehow miss and keep putting off, or catching releases when I can, I also watch a lot of bad movies, or movies you wouldn't normally go and see unless it was your niche, or movies you forget even exist. And then sometimes there's a movie you never realised existed in the first place. And one of those movies is Status Update. Story time. A few years back, my friend and I saw a trailer for a movie that came out of nowhere. I like to think I'm relatively caught up on movie news and developments, but this flick was something unheard of. Usually that means straight to video, but this flick got a theatrical release. And we saw it. And for some reason, 2 years later, it still sticks in my mind. Well, moments really, details. I've already touched on this before with something like The Artist, but there's this lower rung of forgettable movies, the actual bad to okay ones, which you completely forget existing except for maybe a scene or two.
I create life! And I destroy it.
And Status Update is a curious example. You see, it isn't the fact the story is the classic monkey paw, be careful what you wish for idea.
I don't want any zombie turkeys, I don't want to turn into a turkey myself, and I don't want any other weird surprises. You got it?
Or the fact that there's a Bruno Mars cover in it. Or the cast including some mid-tier actors. 2018 Status Update comes from the director of Step Up Revolution and the writer of the best movie ever made, 17 Again. It stars Ross Lynch, Olivia Holt. It's surprisingly not a Disney Channel original movie, and you've definitely seen this type of movie before. Our hero, Kyle, moves to a new school, finds it hard to adjust, gets given a new phone with an app that lets him become whoever he wants, and pays a price for it. You know, the usual. The film's actually not that bad. It's not great, but it's not offensive. It has its laughs and its quirky scenes. It throws phrases no one would ever say out loud.
My rise to the top of the Hayden High School food chain happened faster than a 3-second Snapchat.
And it gives us a weird hippie version of the genie from Aladdin. There are some odd ideas in this flick. But I don't want to talk about the fact our hero throws his thoughts into the air like he's victorious only for them to come true in quirky literal ways. Nor do I want to look at the logic behind him conjuring things like a Ferris wheel or his own dad and car from a completely different state. I just want to talk about Carl's sister, Maxie. She's basically written off to stand on the sidelines, and yet, her journey is just as interesting. You see, she has her own story, her own side plot, which obviously isn't alien, every story has them, but there's just something about hers. You see, we're introduced to her boyfriend Xingfu pretty early on in the movie, who, if you haven't already noticed, looks different to the rest of the high school kids you've seen so far. We're only really showing the jocks, the performing arts kids, and the nerds.
What the f*** are those things?
But Xingfu is in a world of his own, down to his hair and Five Nights at Freddy's bag. As the film progresses and Carl continues to play around with the idea of being someone who he's not, Carl's sister slowly changes in the background. Carl uses his digital wishes to get what he wants artificially, bring his dad back into his life despite the fact his mum wants to separate. He also uses the magical app to become both a good singer and a talented hockey player so he can both get the girl and be popular. We watch Carl slowly need to learn the message we all know he needs to learn, and throughout it we also watch his sister develop into the otaku she was always meant to be.
Hey, anime. I don't know what's going on with this look, but I am digging it big time.
There's just something about this background journey that's distinctive enough to stick in my mind and make me want to talk about it. If you want another version of this that you're more likely to watch, Season 2 of Community has one of the best examples of this background story. The forever meta character Abed essentially takes an episode off. Like Status Update, however, there's a brilliant background story for those of you looking. Over the course of 21 minutes, you can see Abed going from meeting a pregnant lady all the way to delivering her baby in the back of a car, all entirely in the background. And it's never really brought up again.
I barely saw you this week, I bet. What have you been up to?
Not much.
Community uses it for a fun joke, such as the way with that show, but Status Update has this curious constant go on parallel to the events of the main story, as a sort of contrast. Whereas Carl artificially becomes the person he is because he thinks that's the way to fit in, Maxie has it figured out from the beginning. If Kyle wasn't so preoccupied with being stuck in the past and thinking that social media and magic was the way, he'd realise his sister knows how to move on. It's not like she has to deal with Famke Janssen throwing herself at a minor, because that's not the right way. Adapt, grow, change. But ultimately, it's that message the genie from Aladdin taught us.
But remember, be yourself.
And in the age of social media, that's even more true.
Update my status. The universe listens.
Status Update is a movie I don't expect you to watch, but it highlights my attitude towards movies. Watch movies broadly, good and bad. Don't be elitist. There are things you can take away from almost any movie. And also, don't watch a movie based on a running joke with a friend you know that's bad. Because one day you're gonna have to legitimize the fact that you watched it on a YouTube video. Just go watch Mulan and... Oh, come